We are live. Welcome to a special edition as of now for a certain point of view. This could become a regular thing over the next number of weeks with every match that's being released on Twitch. We will get into that much later on the show. I'm your host, Jake Berlin, and this is a certain point of view, guys. Thank you for joining us if you are watching, whether you're watching live or on replay. We are testing this out today to see how it goes as far as timing and if it works for us as far as discussion goes. And with me, as always, is Mr. Avolicino over there. Brian, how you doing, man?
Good. Ready to talk some Star Wars.
Yeah, we have a really cool match to talk about today. And as I mentioned just a short time ago, Star Wars matches are going to be released on Wednesdays going forward for the next number of weeks. And because we can't actually kind of do reactions like we have in the past, we decided to test out a live function the day after and do a whole match discussion / breakdown of the show or of the match and kind of see how it goes. And if it goes well, this could become a regular thing here on the channel. But yeah, we have a really cool match to talk about, and it's Josh Quevedo versus Ace Cabrera. We have Roxstars versus Swag, the debut match for the Star Wars tournament, the play-in match to play Ken Napzok in just a number of weeks here. Not the most anticipated Star Wars match, but I got to say, just quick thoughts before we get going. A match that delivered. It was a great match for the first time it being on Twitch too, which we'll get into here in a second. So I really enjoyed the experience, and I'm excited to talk about. Brian, your thoughts quickly here.
The Twitch format, after I figured it out, worked pretty well. I had no problem with it. I was able to watch it on my TV. So I have no problem with that moving forward. But yeah, overall, it wasn't a heavyweight match by any means, but it was a good match.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. So yeah, let's get into this. So we have Josh Quevedo and Ace Cabrera. We have Swag versus Roxstars here. Obviously, we know the rivalry between Roxy and Winston that's kind of been built up for the last number of weeks, which has been a lot of fun. Both of them making their debut in Star Wars, though, and a tough test because it may not be the live function of a live show, but you had 1,800 plus people watching this match. And even though you may not have known the numbers, it's live. It's on camera. It's something that's pretty serious. And both of them played really well. I had Ace going into this match, and I believe you had Josh, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we split it down the middle there, and we didn't really know what we were going to get from either of them. Josh, we had not seen anything of. First ever time in the Schmoedown. We had seen Ace previously multiple times. The most recent, he, as they call it, he got the Ace whooping by Robert Parker. And even though that was in Inner Geekdom, it's still something that we can include in this because it's still a Schmoedown match, right? You still get those nerves. You still have those feelings. But with all that said, they both came out on fire. They 11 for 11 in the first round, both of them, both perfect rounds. And we'll get into it after we discuss the first round as far as the difficulty of the questions, I'm sure. But a total, just a great test of their knowledge. And they were both just knocking them one by one as they went along. And it turned into this like very heavyweight-esque fight because they were going toe for toe with each other. And so I was very happy with how the first round went and how the lead up to it all went overall. What did you think of the first round, Brian?
First round was pretty exciting because, I mean, you kind of were holding breath waiting to see who would miss the first one, and it ended up not happening in that first round. It showed both of them came to play, and both of them were taking it seriously. And yeah, it was a good opener to the tournament because, I mean, what's better than two perfect rounds in a match? I mean, you can't really ask for more. You can't really ask for more, especially from a manager's point of view too. At that point, I mean, both your players have now gone 1 for 1, or the first round 11 for 11, and I mean, it was a really good first round.
Yeah, and we had said because we were talking back and forth, and we were talking in the lead up, obviously, and anticipation and everything. We didn't know what we were going to get from them as far as their level of knowledge. They're both unknown in Star Wars. Ace has obviously been in multiple Star Wars podcasts. We can tell through the lead up of promos and stuff like that for Josh that he's a massive Star Wars fan as well. Roxy wouldn't trade for him if that wasn't the case.
And
there's also a question.
You wouldn't.
Go ahead.
I mean, I was going to say, and you wouldn't trade JTE just
good
just
call.
Willy nilly. I mean, we don't, like I said, we've said, we don't know if he's even going to play, but that is a proven player. So, I mean,
yeah, I agree. But yeah, there's a question here that we need to get to about the difficulty of the questions in round one. Now, we talked about it. We were chatting on the side there about how not softball-ish, but just simple the questions seemed. Again, there's a lot of matches in Star Wars coming up that they have to have a lot of questions for, and whether or not we recycle questions is a whole different story in itself. But some of the questions could be considered very simple. But again, when you look at a Schmoedown match, it isn't the wealth of hard knowledge. It's a wealth of knowledge in general. And those include both first round questions, 1 point questions, 2 point questions, 5 point questions, whatever it may be. It just so happened that in this match, it was kind of like, and they're all randomized. We know that, and they just read them off a board. That's how it happens. It's all based on category. And it just so happened that the 11 questions that we got, minus one, which was the one that I missed, was the wizard question from the pod racing scene.
That was
that's the one that I didn't know. But outside of that, it just so happened that they were all lining up with each other as far as simplicity. But that doesn't mean nobody can miss it. They knew the questions, and the argument is pretty much settled after that.
Yeah, we were watching it live and texting each other from each other's places, and we both were like, that was a pretty easy first round. But the more I thought about it, I mean, it was the first round of a play-in match, and I mean, I feel the more I thought about it, it's like, I guess you don't really want to come out and just like first round of the tournament just swing for the fences. Like, I mean, like we said, this is the not consolation, the match before
play-in match.
Yeah, the play-in match. So I mean, I was shocked because I went back and I knew 9 of the 11. I didn't know the saber part of the dart.
Well, did you say dart though?
I thought it was just the Camino dart.
Because Harloff said dart's okay.
Well, no, he said saber dart is okay. He didn't put Camino in front of it.
I'm sure they would have accepted dart because
okay. Well, then I would have gotten 10 out of 11 then. But I mean, that shocked me because if I'm pulling for me, like I was like, well, I'm getting these, and that usually doesn't happen when you get these pool of Star Wars questions. But like I said, it's the play-in round. Who knows? That's could have been a factor of it. Both of them, their first match ever. You don't want to give them like the most impossible questions in the world, and then it's just like, well, crap. How am I going to go further in this? So yeah. It's. I mean, it did make it more exciting though. Having
and that forth led into that. I mean, you come out of round one with 11 points. That's incredible, obviously, for anybody, especially when you're playing in a tournament that's so important, right? And it's the first match of the tournament. It's obviously a big deal. But then the tide completely shifted, right? Second round is where the game, the match just turned on its head, and Ace pretty much dominated from here on out. And that has nothing to do with him just completely obliterating. It was a factor of Josh just not knowing the game as much as he probably should have. And that's just a result of him not having the experience. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that happens. Yeah. But there's multiple times in round two here where specifically the first two questions where the very first question, he just didn't answer, right? Ran out of time, didn't know the answer, didn't ask for multiple choice. Ace ended up stealing the question for 2 points. The second question comes and he spends 2 of his JTEs on this rule or in this question. And then again, doesn't answer a question at all. and then Ace steals two more points in this one. So it's already a 4-point swing, two questions in. That's a big deal for a rookie competitor who may not know the game as well. And it definitely showed. You can kind of see his demeanor changing a little bit after the first round, but he fought his way back. He answered he got 2 of the 3 next questions right. Ace missed a steal, which was in his favor. One of the questions, the fifth question, was a multiple choice. So he got on his feet again and got a couple points back for him. But after his wheel spin, Ace was leading 15-14, and it was an 11-11 game going into that. And so when your opponent is leading you after your round in round 2, that's never a good thing. But he definitely, after those first 2 questions, he fought his way back and showed a little bit of more, confidence, I guess is the best word, going into that round 3.
Yeah. This round was a testament to experience and just being ready. I mean, we don't know. I mean, you can't just say like he didn't know the rules, or maybe he froze. We don't know, and it's not fair to make assumptions. But I mean, we've seen this happen a couple of times where multiple choice should be used. I mean, unless strategically you don't think that person can figure out the question for 2 points, you probably shouldn't ever leave it just open-ended. I mean, there absolutely has been times where the person doesn't want to go to multiple choice because they'll figure it out. And that's fair. I mean, that's completely fair. But I think in this case, it was just, I don't know it. And then it was like, oh, crap, I forgot that we could go to multiple choice. And I guarantee you, poor Roxy was just in the waiting room screaming like multiple choice. So, you can't fault him. It was his first match. It was first time being in the Schmoedown, and it's a freaking play-in for a Star Wars tournament. So, I mean, props for him not like walking out of there completely like down and out. Like, I mean, he did get some stuff in there that kept him in the game, because he could have easily been knocked out that round. So, again, comes down to just the experience, and you kind of, I feel like, I mean, I don't have any experience with it, but I feel like that's just some things you kind of can't really, you can prep yourself for questions and answers, but when you're sitting in front of a computer getting asked questions and you're just trying to think so hard, you might mentally just forget things like multiple choice. And, it happens. And I'm sure going forward, he won't make that mistake ever again. So,
I'm sure Roxy's going to harp on that with him for sure. So we shift into Ace's round here, and he spins the wheel, or he asks Mark to press a button to spin the wheel. And
before you go, do you like the wheel?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. And I was just going to mention how it was such a coincidence that both times they spun on the line for both of them, and one way or another they got to choose. I'm okay with it. Like the wheel, like, it's still random. It's not as random as spinning it yourself, of course, but it's the best way to do the game. I like it better than the number system personally, because it's still the wheel, right? It still has like that like gravitas to it. So I'm okay with them doing a digital wheel.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of was getting used to the picking a number thing that Ellis was doing. And to be honest, although the one thing that does kind of make it a little more interesting is the fact that if it lands on the line, you now have your own choice between 2. Whether or not that could be a good thing or a bad thing moving forward, who knows? I'm curious if, let's say, the wheel goes around and it's split in the middle, and you have a new category, and the person that one went before you has picked it. If that's automatically you get that other one, or
I don't know if you heard, but again. So there's 2 options they can do. They can either pick between the 2, but they can also spin again if it lands on the line. I don't know if you missed that. So that is an option. I think
Okay.
they may have only told Ace that when he spun on the line, because Winston came in and is like, we can choose either one, but then we can also spin again, right? So if that happened, more than likely you'd see either that category or spin again in that situation. But it's just funny how it happened as far as them both landing on the line. Either way, they got categories they seemed like they were okay with. Ace landed on the Force Awakens, and he ended up going 1, 2, 3. He ended up going 3 for 5. And Quevedo got a steal on that 5th question. And Ace, physically, he missed the Hosnian Prime question. You could see that he was just upset about, and that he knew.
They both kind of did.
Yeah, exactly. So Ace, after the second round, he goes up 20-15. Big gap going into that third round, which is always key. To this point, it clearly looked like Ace's game, right? I mean, after that first round, it could have been anybody's, but second round, it was just a stumble of knowing the game and understanding when to ask and when not to ask for certain stuff. And that's just kind of what it boiled down to, and it kind of led into round 3 too. But I think Ace at this point had a clear-cut lead going into the round, and it just felt like the game was his at that point.
Yeah, I just felt bad because you could just watch Josh's demeanor change kind of, and it was a bummer, like, just because it was like he went in it so confident, just smacked the first round in the mouth, and then just kind of like you hit that trip, and then it just kind of was a domino effect, and it sucks first time, but yeah, I mean, Ace was set up for the kill by the end of that second round. Was Ace guaranteed to win at that point? Absolutely not. Josh could have absolutely nailed the final round, and Ace could have stumbled, and we'd be talking a different game. But the way Ace kind of was rolling, you could just kind of tell the last piece was put in.
Yeah. So that leads us right into round 3. And this is where the situation as far as names and challenges came into play. But with that aside for now, Quevedo had his question first, answers the 2-point question correct. Then he had his 2-point or his second question, and he answers that correctly as far as what the judges are saying. This is the Key Monday. I'm not going to say debacle, but for the lack of a better word right now, debacle that we're talking about. And that led to Ace answering his 2-point question as well, the Padme question, and then Josh officially missing his 5-point question, and Ace winning the game at that point, which was a win of 22-20. And this is where it gets complicated, because for that second question for Josh, the Key Monday question, not only did it seem like he kind of answered it after the buzzer, but he also, as far as what we know for Star Wars fans, it's Key Monday. And so it'll be at that point, we didn't know what was going to happen for the ruling. Christian had said, hey, this is what's on the document. The writers feel confident what they're doing. This is what we're going with at the moment. And that's where this whole virtual thing comes into play. I think they handled it very well for what they were doing, right? You can't take too much time on it. You can't really focus on it for a lengthy amount of time because you're still inside of a match. If you want to take a little bit for Christian and Mark to kind of discuss it, maybe they have the writers on the side watching the match in the comments. I don't know.
Well, they said they put him in a private chat.
Yeah, so they were probably in the stream, or maybe just like a group message somewhere else talking about it. And after the match, like very shortly after the match, Christian announced that they're ruling it differently, and that Ace would be awarded a TKO, which is big. This is where it comes in. This is really, really big here. So the match originally was a 22-20 win. Now with the change, it's a 20-17 win, and Ace didn't have to actually answer a question in the third round. And that's big for Swag, because that officially puts them into second place, right behind the FinSock exchange, with Ace now playing in the tournament. But like I said, I think they handled it very well. I think Christian did what he could at the time, went back after the match, discussed it, and they came to a conclusion. And for it being virtual and then doing it over messaging and stuff, I think it ended up exactly how it should have been.
Yeah, it was handled, in my opinion. We were both sitting there going, that's the wrong answer. That's the wrong answer. But when you go back, I think it was handled the best way you could possibly do it. I mean, you can't just sit there on the live stream for 10 minutes with 1,800 people trying to scramble and figure out the question, because people are going to get tired of it and they're going to leave. They're going to be tired of waiting. And you know what? It got taken care of. Christian made the announcement within I want to say 15, maybe 30 minutes after.
Very shortly.
It was quick. So, I mean, if the writers wrote it that way at that point, so be it. They're going to go back and figure it out. They're not just going to be like, well, that's it. Oh, well, sorry. That's what the question was. That's what we put as the answer. They're not going to do that. The writers and everyone in the Schmoedown's not going to just be like, our word is final. So, I mean, at that point, yeah, you say, hey, we'll review it. Now, personally, I kind of don't think that they should have gotten the TKO point, because Winston was technically out of his challenge, in my opinion. He challenged the speed of him getting that answer in.
Yeah, the same question. Yeah.
Yeah. He's challenged the speed of getting that answer in, which Christian then ruled, no, he got it in before the buzzer. To me, at that point, your challenge is gone. Then he said, well, that's the wrong answer. If he didn't challenge the time, he would have used his challenge to challenge that answer. Now, I get it. The answer was wrong on the guesser's and the writer. But a challenge is a challenge, in my opinion. And Winston was already burned. Now, it's a weird situation that we probably will never see again, where it's the writers wrote the wrong answer on accident. He had just challenged literally right before, and the person got the right answer, but it was wrong. It was a perfect spiral of craziness. So it's kind of not fair for Winston and them not to get the point. But in my opinion, he had already burned that challenge. So it's just kind of a giant kerfuffle of a mess that just, I mean, in the end, it's probably better off that they were given that point just because the whole thing was a mess and the answer was technically wrong. But I don't know. But like I said, that probably is a 1 in a million thing that would happen, and it probably will never happen again like that. So
yeah. So before I get to my thoughts, real quick, Garth McMurray here. I think that if they can, they should program the wheel not to stop on the lines, just not on solid colors of each category, which is a great point. If they can do that, I mean, why not after watching what just happened in this match? That's something they can definitely think about. And then he also commented back on the challenge. Roxy pointed out that Winston knew to challenge from the live chat comments saying that's not the right name, which is something to take into account. And yeah, I mean, that's something fair. They can go back and look at. And I mean, I don't know how it works as far as what you need to say as far as challenging. But if I'm not mistaken, I don't think Winston ever said, I'm challenging this. They were kind of just talking about it. And
Winston was I think just
he was just talking about it, saying oh, I think that he didn't get it afterwards. Or
and then Christian went, are you challenging? I think Christian just went, are you challenging? And he goes, yes. And then that's
and that leads to the question like you were talking about. That's interesting. I think that what happened is whether or not he was out of challenges, I think they were just trying to get it right because it was a big kerfuffle, right? It was kind of the talk of the match, whether it was Ki Mundi. Obviously, when you look at Star Wars names, all their names have 3 words: Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ki Mundi. It's 3 words in a name, and so they want to make sure they get it right because if that question ever comes up again, they have to make sure they get the right name. And so I think that's just kind of what it came down to. Either way, Ace wins. Yes, it's a matter of a point, but it is a matter of a TKO, which is a big deal at this point, especially for Swag, who is fighting for a top spot. I just think that it did end up in the right spot personally.
Yeah, in the end, it was probably it was the right decision, but just like we said, just a matter of all the bad things, not bad, but all the craziness hitting the wall at one time and just kind of got muddled. But oh well. Like I said, it's probably never going to happen again. So oh well.
Yeah. So Garth, if you're watching still, thank you for commenting, man. We really appreciate that. Good stuff there. So how this match ended up here, this puts Swag, as we have mentioned, in a really good spot after that TKO. They're obviously not fighting anymore. They are officially in second place. The next Star Wars match that we're going to be getting has the Den in that match with Sean Sullivan playing Laura Kelly. So they go from a tie with the Den to a 1-point lead. That can obviously switch if Sullivan is able to win next week. But Ace gives the faction some good points here.
Yeah, that was huge for Swag. Absolutely huge, because I mean, that keeps him in the running for points still. Because I mean, unfortunately, with these tournaments, well, I should say with the Star Wars tournament, your team is either one and done, or you have chances to build on points that's going to add up. And those points, I mean, if someone like Swag or the Den run the table, you're in first place.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, especially if Finstock, their competitor stumbles. Will that probably happen? Probably not. But I mean, if someone runs a table, this could put you either back in the game if you're in that lower tier, or in a clear spot to be ahead. So every point is going to matter at this point. So, I mean, those points that everyone's getting, they're going to be huge because, like you said, the Den versus Corruption. Corruption's trying to get out of last place. So winning stuff and making a run for them puts them right back in the standings for that top tier. The Den, if they run the table or something where they're at, they're looking at probably first place, depending on Finstock. Or Finstock's just going to jump up even more. So it's kind of huge, because if you lose, your team is now out of winning that pot of points. So
it's going to be interesting. And as I mentioned, next week's match is between Laura Kelly and Sean Sullivan. Corruption versus the Den. You can see the schedule right there. If you missed it on the stream yesterday, you jumped out early. This is what the schedule looks like in the coming week. So right after that, we have Joseph Scrimshaw for the Quirky Mercs up against Andrew Dimalanta for the Finstock Exchange. And then Molly Damon is taking on Adam Witt. We have Usual Suspects versus the Dungeon. And right after that, we have Ace Cabrera again taking on his former master, Ken Napzok, Burning Droogs versus Swag. Some good matches coming up in Star Wars here. A lot of fun, a lot to look forward to. I will say this, though, aside from the match here, we can talk about the Twitch just very quickly, because we do have to get out of here. I thought it went brilliantly. I think that the Twitch stream worked awesome. I think that it's something that it should use to its advantage in the future. Even though when we get back to doing live stuff in studio, I think that it's something that should definitely be in, the consideration, whether it's just for exhibition purposes or like what they did after the match. They bring in guests after the match. Like oh, let's jump on a StreamYard.
Awesome.
Bring in some. And it's funny because I didn't see my email until the stream was over. I had the link and I would have jumped in and maybe gotten a question or something. I'll have to remember that next time. But I thought it worked out really well.
Yeah, it was great. It turned out way better. I loved the graphics, the music, everything worked out perfectly. And the thing I really loved was getting that constant update of points. That was something that I really enjoyed getting.
Yes, Garth McMurray again. I'm a Rockstars guy. I started the Rockstars fan group on Facebook. That's awesome, man. I'm a part of that. Yeah. And it's rough that the Rockstars is done for Star Wars points until Alex Damon plays the winner of this tourney. Yeah, but you got to think here. Even though the Rockstars are done for this tournament, you have Alex Damon playing. That's a title match. That's a lot of points on the line, and so that could help them. Even though and who knows, maybe the tournament works out in your favor where all these factions split up different types of points. Like here, someone gets a point here, someone gets a point here, and then Alex Damon comes up and mops everything up at the end. That could play into their favor a little bit. Brian Nussbaum right here. I love the promos for this. I completely agree. Yeah. I especially love the beginning graphic, which was brilliant. The countdown. I loved it.
That was awesome.
Yeah. I love the colors and everything. It's such a good look. And then Garth McMurray again. Hopefully they can design some emotes like other Twitch channels. I would like emotes for each of the 9 factions. So that's a good call. That's a really good call. We have a buddy who runs a Twitch channel for video games, and he does his emotes and stuff. So we know exactly what you're talking about there.
Yeah.
I think it was great. I think the Twitch worked out really well, and I'm really looking forward to it. Now that I've seen what it looks like and how it's going to be, I'm excited because the hype for this match was crazy. Like absolutely crazy, and I think it's going to work out in its favor.
1,800 people in it.
And it's only going to grow. After hearing this match, it's only going to grow.
I mean, the free agency brought in 13. This first match brought in 18. It's getting crazy good.
It's because we haven't had much Schmoedown lately.
But it works out. And it's becoming more accessible. So I mean, it's only going to get better, and these tournaments are only going to make it grow that much better too.
100%. All right. Well, before we get out of here, guys, we do have an announcement for next week's show. The last couple of weeks we've been rolling strong, getting some guests on. You guys should check out. We just had Alex and Molly Damon on last week. Really, really cool interview we did with them. We sat down, kind of just had a good conversation with them, got to know them a little bit outside of the Schmoedown and inside the Schmoedown. We've done Brad Gilmore and Kevin Smets and Robert Parker and Sean Sullivan and Rachel Silvestrini. But next week we do have the winner of this match. Ace Cabrera will be joining us, guys. We're going to be recording this weekend. It'll be up on Monday morning. He's going to come in. We're going to talk not just his match with Star Wars and what he's going to be looking forward to here in the future, but outside of it as well, what he's doing, how's he been doing in quarantine in LA, what he's got going on in the future, stuff like that. So make sure you guys join us. That'll be up on Monday morning again. You guys can find it on audio. All those links above Brian's head right there, Anchor, Apple, Spotify, obviously up on YouTube. And we're doing live Twitter stuff too each week. Before we get out of here, though, we got a couple more comments. These are flowing in, which I love. This live aspect, Brian, it's working out really well. Corruption will be getting points for the whole tourney if Laura ends up winning the whole thing. Yes, and a lot of people are predicting that. A lot of people are predicting for her to possibly win, which is, I mean, it's not arguable because she was there with Alex Damon last week or last year, I should say. And he comments again, close to 2,000 people with people complaining that didn't want to go on Twitch. That's a perfect example. Once people get over their fears and check out Twitch, the numbers should grow. I could easily see thousands of people jumping on there because of the time frame. It's 3 o'clock, right? 6 o'clock on the East Coast, 5 o'clock elsewhere. It works out in the favor of the channel. Do it live like that, right? On a weekday where people are getting off work, like, oh my God, I gotta get home to watch Schmoedown. So we can definitely see it growing in the future. Now that Rockstars are out, I'm rooting for Molly Damon run for. I think we are too. After talking to him last week, I definitely agree with that because it was a good conversation to see them go back and forth with each other and how fun it would be for them to battle it out at some point. It would be just an absolute crap talk. I think that would all be here for. And I completely agree. The grumbles of, oh, it's on Twitch, blah, 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 blah. Then everyone gets on and they're like, oh, okay, this is nice. You messed with the flow, but then everyone just jumps right back in line and they're completely fine with it. 100%. All right, guys. Well, there it is. Our live stream for today covering Josh Quevedo and Ace Cabrera, the first Star Wars match in the Star Wars tournament. Because this went so well, I think we're going to have to shoot for this each week now. Some cool breakdowns, do it live on YouTube and Twitter. It worked out really well. Thank you guys for all the comments. Really cool having you guys join in. That was fun. Again, you guys can find us on not just YouTube, audio. So we have Anchor, Apple, Spotify, all that good stuff, Google, Breaker. They're all above Brian right there. Also on Twitter, we're interacting with players and managers and stirring the pot sometimes about some people and putting polls and doing all kinds of fun stuff up on there. So follow us there at Schmoedown POV. Again, our live show, our main show, our weekly show. It's fun. I post one GIF and it lights it on fire, which is always fun. Our main show lives on Monday mornings, so you guys can find it there. So check that out. Again, we have Ace Cabrera joining us this week to talk his match and some more. So for myself, I am Jake Berlin. That is my co-host, Brian Avolicino. We are A Certain Point of View. We thank you for joining us. We'll see you guys next week, and may the Force be with you.